help his friend. But before we get started, let's take a look at what we have. Now, if you are new to the YouTube channel and you'd like to study Wisdom of Kabbalah, you can always go to Kabbalah.info and join our group there at the KabU Academy. And if you're new to the Wisdom of Kabbalah, but you want to just see how things are going, you can always check out our online courses here, which are absolutely free, obviously, and see if it matches your liking or not. All right, so in the interim, though, let's get started with our article here. Each one shall help his friend. As usual, we're going to have a half-an-hour session, with which after that, we're going to study the Zohar with the Bnei Baruch World Group together. If you have any questions, as usual, you can shoot them through. We'll try to answer them as best we can. Right, yeah, this is from Rabash. Each one shall help his friend. We must understand how one can help his friend. Is this matter specifically when there are rich and poor, wise and fools, weak and strong? But when all are rich, smart or strong, etc., how can one help another? We see that there is one thing that is common to all: the mood. It is said, a concern in one's heart, let him speak of it with others. This is because, with regard to feeling high-spirited, neither wealth nor erudition can be of assistance. Rather, it is one person who can help another by seeing that one's friend is low. It is written, one does not deliver oneself from imprisonment. Rather, it is one's friend who can lift his spirit. This means that one's friend raises him from his state into a state of liveliness. Then one begins to reacquire strength and confidence of life and wealth, and he begins as though his goal is now near him. It turns out that each and every one must be attentive and think how he can help his friend raise his spirit. Because in the matter of spirits, anyone can find a needy place in one's friend that he can fill. All right, so let's go over that again. Each one shall help his friend. We must understand how one can help his friend. Is this matter specifically when there are rich and poor, wise and fools, weak and strong? But when all are rich, smart, or strong, etc., how can one help another? We see that there is one thing that is common to all: the mood. It is said, a concern in one's heart, let him speak of it with others. It is because, with regard to feeling high-spirited, neither wealth nor erudition can be of assistance. Rather, it is one person who can help another by seeing that one's friend is low. It is written, one does not deliver oneself from imprisonment. Rather, it is one's friend who can lift his spirit. This means that one's friend raises him from his state into a state of liveliness. Then one begins to reacquire strength and confidence of life and wealth, and he begins as though his goal is now near him. It turns out that each and every one must be attentive and think how he can help his friend raise his spirit. Because in the matter of spirits, anyone can find a needy place in one's friend that he can fill. All right, any questions? No? Nothing? All right.
Recording in progress.
This is quite an important article, actually. So let's take a look. All right. All right. This is very important because we're doing some spiritual work here, which is completely against human nature. All right. Unlike other methods in the world who want to acquire some kind of a reward or benefit, which is fulfilling to the ego. The wisdom of Kabbalah is quite the opposite. The wisdom of Kabbalah says, hey, you want to advance in spirituality according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, that's great. But your only reward is giving to others. So that doesn't sound so nice to the ego at all, because we like to get things, don't we? We like to receive things. We like to take things into our own possession, our own control. We like to feel like we own things. That kind of gives us a bit of confidence and fulfillment. However, though, the wisdom of Kabbalah says, listen, the purpose of life is to attain a higher level of consciousness, which in order for you to attain it, you have to go outside your boundaries, which means outside your current perception of reality. Now, if I keep taking things for myself, I can never perceive what is outside of me because I'm trying to take everything within. So I can never really be fulfilled if I keep living like that. Okay, simple law of nature is because desire cancels pleasure. Well, pleasure cancels the desire, basically. And if the pleasure cancels the desire every time I take something, it is impossible for me to stay fulfilled in life. That's one thing. The second of all is every time I take things for myself, I cannot have any opportunity to feel anybody else outside of me. And if I don't feel anybody else outside or except myself, that is considered the state of an animal, because an animal also just feels itself. And that means we, just like an animal, are born, living, and dying off. No difference at all. Exactly like an animal. And because we have to do this thing that's a bit against our nature, because the wisdom of Kabbalah is directed towards giving, not receiving. And the only way we can perceive a new reality is by being the opposite of what we are. And the opposite of what we are is giving. Does that make sense? Okay, that should make sense. Okay, it's logical. But when it comes down to the crunch and you want to do something about it and start giving and not think about yourself, that's a bit of a drama. Okay, and that's the whole trick. Because on the one hand, you might think that, well, in life we also give things. That's true. We only give things in corporeal reality if it suits us, if it serves a purpose which we feel is good for us. Okay, so we can give things to other people because it makes us feel good. It makes us feel greater than others. It gives us a sense of superiority. But that's not really giving. Giving is supposed to be in the same nature as the way that the Creator bestows. Right, how God bestows. And if I want to feel perfection, I should have no lacking. I shouldn't have a desire to receive for myself if I want to feel perfection. Because what is a desire at the end of the day? A desire is a lack. And there's no way I can feel perfection if I'm living inside a lack. All right? That should also be logical, right? This is why, in order to feel content, we run around all day and all night, if possible, to fulfill ourselves, constantly wanting to fulfill ourselves in any way we can. And like I said, according to the laws of nature, pleasure cancels the desire. You'll be running for the rest of your life with nothing to show for when you're dead. In order to get out of that cycle, the Kabbalists are saying you need to attain a degree called a human being. And a human being is someone who lives above their desire to receive for oneself, just like the Creator. A person who is independent of the desire and is not swayed or pushed around by the desire to receive pleasure. And working to attain something like that is a tough business because it goes contrary to everything we know. It's completely opposite to every gut instinct we have. So in order for us to do the impossible, first we're going to have to need a dot in the heart. And the second thing we're going to need, which is really, really important, is a bunch of good friends who are willing to do the impossible. Right? Now, the only reason this idea, this concept resonates with us is because we have a dot in the heart, right? An inclination to spirituality, an inclination to the meaning of life, an inclination to a feeling that life is beyond our corporeal senses and existence. That inclination comes from our root, which is the Creator. And according to that inclination, we can resonate with this idea because we come from the Creator. Our root is the Creator. So his nature of bestowing to others because of the nature of love of others, for us, this idea is like, yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. All right. So we've got some kind of proximity to this concept. However, though, despite the fact that we've got an inclination and proximity, we are still inside our big ego. We still have a huge desire to receive pleasure for ourselves. And in fact, we have a much greater desire to receive pleasure for ourselves than normal people out there on the world. Regular people, they just want to be happy in this life. You know, food, family, sex, money, honor, knowledge, and they're good to go. They don't mind dying while trying to fulfill these things. For them, running after these things and ending up dead afterwards is okay. That's fine. Great. No problemo, Jose. However, for us, that just doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in because of this dot in the heart. We have another sensation in us, which is above this world. And that's the point which we need to strengthen. Because our dot in the heart is still inside our egoism, we're also inclined to run after corporeal desires, just like other people out there. But because we have a dot in the heart, we have a dilemma. Okay, we're in a dilemma. On the one hand, we have desires which we want to fulfill. On the other hand, we have a question mark about the meaning of life and what the heck am I doing here? Okay? So that is for us a dilemma. Most people, they don't have a dilemma. They have a desire, they just go for it. That's it. Life is straightforward. For us, it's like a maze. You're all over the place. Nothing is really clear. Life is bringing all kinds of dramas. And you're like, well, you know, what's going on? And you look at your friends out there in corporal reality, and everybody's okay with life. And then they look at you and think, what are you worried about the meaning of life for? Come live with us. Eat while you can, drink while you can. You're going to end up dead soon anyway. What's the big deal? All right. And this is how they live. And that's for us is like we're looking at them and thinking, what planet is he living on? Okay. Because for us, that kind of an attitude is very alien. It's just like, are you nuts? So we're in a bit of a problem. This is why we need to help each other. And in order for us to strengthen this inclination for spirituality, we need to overcome all our corporeal desires plus our egos, which is our natural nature. So in order for us to do that, we need a good environment, a good group of people who can help us out. Now, if people didn't help us out, if we didn't have friends with the dot in the heart that we were working with, we got no chance. Zilch. Nothing. Why? Because you got no one to work with. In corporeality, you can work with anyone with your desire to receive because everybody's after fulfilling their desire to receive. So you can just, you can pretty much do whatever you want with your life, just like everybody else. But when it comes to spirituality, when you want to specifically fulfill something that is beyond human nature, then you're going to need people who have the same desire, the same inclination, so that you have some kind of force to fight against your natural nature, which is running after all kinds of silly things in life. Just like kids are running after toys, as we grow up, we're also running after toys, aren't we? Kids play around with cars, and grown-ups are also playing around with cars. Kids are playing with bigger cars. Why? Because they grew up. Okay, so they grow up, they play with the bigger cars. And this is what we do in life. Right? Same thing. As kids, we used to go on picnics and stuff, and we grow up. Now we go to cafes and restaurants and holidays. But essentially, what are we really doing? We're doing the same thing that children do. We're just playing around and wasting our life. Okay? So from our perspective, a perspective from the point in the heart, it doesn't agree with it. And so we need friends to help us out. So how can they help us out? How can we help each other out? That's the whole idea of the article. And he makes a really nice point here. What's the matter of helping out? Are the rich going to help the poor? The smart are going to help the stupid? The strong, what are they going to do? Help the weak? What's the idea of helping each other here? If we were in corporeal dealings, that might have been the case when the rich help the poor and the strong help the weak and the smart help the dumb. But in our business, it's a bit different because here, when it comes to the wisdom of the heart, how smart you are is so irrelevant. You would not believe it. Because your brain and your IQ will not help you attain spirituality. Because we are sensual beings. Humans are animals which feel things first and then bring an understanding afterwards. Now, our education system obviously works the other way around. They want to fill us up and stuff us with information so that we can be smart. But that hasn't really gotten us far except high levels of depression. And the reason is because we're not focusing on the feelings that we should be going through. Okay, because what makes a person mature are the feelings. So your money, your strength, your brains, when it comes to spirituality, add up to zero. What can help you is remaining in a good attitude, motivation, and the power to move on. Because the only thing you're going to need when you're studying the wisdom of Kabbalah is the strength to take another step forward. And the only way you can take another step forward, according to the laws of nature, is if you have a desire to attain something. Because at the end of the day, we're a desire to receive, right? So the only way I can move forward is if I keep igniting that dot in the heart with the help of others, so I'll have the motivation to move forward against my nature. And if I don't get that from the environment, there is no way I can move forward. So this is why Rabash is saying, there's only one thing we need here. And everybody needs to treat each other nicely, and everybody needs to give each other a good mood. Because if I'm in a good mood, I can stick around in that environment. And if the environment is not giving me a good mood, I won't want to be there. Why should I want to be in a place where I keep feeling bad? Does that make sense? I guess it doesn't, since we've got 2 questions. Okay. All right, let's see how it's going. Ingrid's asking, is prayer a lack? That's right, Ingrid. Nice question. Prayer is a lack, but we should really discern what we're praying for. Am I praying for something that I'm lacking in corporeality, or am I praying for something that should take me forward in spirituality? So when we're studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, our lack really is a lack for bestowal and the love of others. This is why it's really hard to attain such a desire, because we don't have naturally any inclination to love others. We love ourselves, and we'd like to keep it that way. Okay? But if we keep it that way, it's the life of an animal. So in order to go into the human level, which our dot in the heart would love to do, we have to think about loving others. And this is why Rabash says it's very important to give everybody a good mood, because it's like your way of expressing to them that you value them, that you love them, you care about them. So if everybody practices in the group the love of others in order to elevate ourselves in the degrees of a human being rather than an animal, then we can come to a correct prayer where we can say, well, I'd love to love others, but my inclination, my nature doesn't allow me to. And that's the real lack we should be coming to. Okay, so that's a really nice question, actually. And Patricia's asking, how does one get out of a pleasurable state when pleasure keeps coming? Well, that's a nice question. Oh, we'd all love that. I don't think we have to suppress pleasure. At the end of the day, the purpose of life is to be happy, right? So I don't think we need to, if we're happy in life, I don't think we need to kind of get rid of our happiness. No, not at all, actually. It's good to be happy on the path. So if you're happy in getting pleasure, that's fine, great. Might be worthwhile, though, to think now how I can add to my pleasure by elevating myself to a higher level, or how I can also distribute that happiness and joy to the friends so that they can elevate themselves as well, so that they can go higher as well. All right. So if you guys are happy and getting pleasure all the time, that's fine. Not a problem. Okay. Good on you. Okay. The question is, am I getting the right kind of pleasure? It's good to discern. So I say if I'm getting pleasure from life and from things, it's also good to discern, where am I getting pleasure from? If I want to attain spirituality, am I getting pleasure from things that I'm doing in my spiritual work? Or am I getting pleasure doing corporeal stuff? Okay. And which is both fine. They're both fine. But you need to kind of calibrate yourself into the direction of what you want to attain. Okay, because if you don't calibrate your direction, if you don't kind of like direct yourself to the real goal that you're after, which is spiritual attainment, okay, then you can get stuck in pleasures for the rest of your life, which you can't get out of, and they'll be no good for spirituality. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So if I'm getting pleasure in life, I should attach that pleasure to the creator. And if I'm having a rough day or a rough period in life as well, that's also fine. I should also relate that to the creator as well and try to figure out from any situation that I find myself in how I can direct myself in a sharper way towards the creator. And directing myself sharper in the direction of the creator is the same thing as directing myself more precisely towards the lower friends and bestowing to the friends. Okay, well, that brings us to 8:30. That's it, yeah, with the questions. That's it, great. All right, so we're going to love you and leave you until next Tuesday, and then we'll see how things pan out next week. In the interim, have a good night or a good day, depending where you are. We'll catch up next week. See you guys in the Zohar lesson in 30 seconds.